If you're anything like Sonic, you like to move fast. But to do that, you need the perfect shoes, which is why I decided to partner with Vessi to be the sponsor of today's video. I've always loved walking. It's a great way to go outside without being too high in the intensity. However, the fall season is here, and in my area it's been raining a lot lately. There's nothing quite like encountering a puddle of water while walking. It's the awkward moment where you have to decide if you're going to try and go around it in some potentially wet grass, or just rush through and hope your shoes don't get too wet. With Vessi, those concerns are over. The company has a wide variety of stylish, everyday sneakers you can pick and choose from, but another big draw towards these shoes is the fact that they're water and snow-proof, meaning you can run right through the aforementioned puddles with ease, and even continue to wear them throughout the winter, and your socks will be perfectly clean when the day is done. As Sly Cooper once said, it's functional and fashionable. Vessi will definitely be my go-to sneakers from now on. Like I said, that's Vessi, and you can find them by clicking the link in the description and by using my promo code Jay'sReviews. You can get $25 off your order. Honestly guys, if you were in the market for a pair of shoes for either yourself or a loved one, you'd be doing me a real solid by checking them out. With all that said, let's get on with the show. In my last video, I discussed my in-depth thoughts on Sonic Colors for the Wii that got released in 2010. To the surprise of many, my opinion on that game is that it's a blast to play for an overwhelming majority of its runtime. I don't think it's a perfect game, since there were a few too many filler levels, even for a shorter Sonic game, but perfection isn't really what I'm after. I just want to enjoy myself while playing, which is not a high bar to reach if you ask me. But as I also said in the last video, Sonic Colors, paired with the release of the, at the time, well-received Sonic 4 Episode 1 was a big deal for the series. The daytime gameplay from Sonic Unleashed proved to be a success yet again, as did nostalgia in Sonic 4. Sonic was on the rise, which was a good thing because we were heading into the year 2011, one of the best years in gaming history. I mean, one of the greatest games ever came out, Batman Arkham City. But we aren't talking about that game today, this is the Sonic retrospective. 2011 was a big year for the series because by that point it had been 20 years since the release of Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Genesis. Now it's been 30 years, and that means it's been 10 years since Sonic Generations. Oh god, where is the time going? But as I was saying, by this point they had started making anniversaries a big deal. The first officially celebrated anniversary was the release of Sonic Adventure 2 in 2001, followed by the 4 games from 2006, and now you have 2011 where there was only going to be one game, but that game was set up to be a big one. I just remember scrolling YouTube and I see Sonic 20th Anniversary trailer. Let's watch it. Okay, it's Sonic. The sound effects are familiar, meaning it's another game with the Unleashed controls, you know, with the slide, the drift, but then the old Sonic was back in action. Like I've said before, when I was a kid, it was clearly obvious that Sonic currently looked like this, but used to look like this. Both were fine, I mean, it was just a character redesign. That happens all the time in things I like. But now, old Sonic was back and was given the official name of Classic Sonic. The game was officially revealed 2 weeks later as Sonic Generations, an adventure with classic Sonic and modern Sonic as they go through the best levels of Sonic's history, which were gradually revealed as the months rolled by. The hype for this game was even greater than Colors and Unleashed for me, because this included an element of nostalgia as you waited with bated breath to see what stages and what bosses were going to be brought back as you wonder how these iconic moments would be paid tribute to. Nothing more hype than City Escape from SA2 being the big stage they showed off at E3 of 2011. Jazzwares was the company that got the Sonic action figure license in 2008 or so, and for the 20th anniversary they had a big celebratory line with figures based on all the stages from Sonic Generations. I'm telling you, it was awesome to wait for this game, and for it to be released on November 1st of 2011. I still have that PS3 copy 10 years later. It gave me something to play because for the weeks prior I was doing nothing besides making a dedicated effort to fully finish Jak 2 for the first time. But I suppose that can wait for the Jak 2 video you aren't going to watch. I didn't get to Arkham City until it was already 2012, but that story can also wait for another day. It took me a couple of years to complete Sonic 06 and Sonic Unleashed, a couple of weeks to get through Sonic Colors, but with Generations, I just flew through this game. I beat it the day after I got it, but I played it religiously afterwards. At the time, I could tell you that this was definitely one of the best Sonic games ever made, and I could still tell you that to this very day. I mentioned my PS3 copy a moment ago, but that's not how I'm playing it for this video. Generations was on the PS3 and the Xbox 360, but both were 30 FPS and had these atrocious loading screens, so I throw that one in the bin. The version on the Nintendo 3DS is also a completely different game developed by Dimps, like Colors on DS, so we aren't talking about that one either. But most importantly, Generations is a game you can get for PC that runs at a full 60 frames per second. This is clearly the best version, so let's go. Sonic Generations from 2011, let's give it the full review treatment. I should first mention that this is one of those games where you only get one save file, so I had to delete mine to do the review. I really hate that. I'm the kind of guy that likes having a master save file and then other saves where I replay the campaign or record for a review, that sort of thing. Maybe that only bothers me, but if Sonic Heroes can have 99 save files, I don't know why Sonic Generations only has one. Anyway, when pressing New Game, you are, like Sonic Colors, tossed into the first level immediately, just like the good old days. No cutscenes in sight. For some context, the first cutscene shows classic Sonic running through Green Hill and being sucked into a time portal by a giant monster. Fast forward in time as Sonic's friends are celebrating his birthday until that same monster captures them all, warping Sonic to a colorless void where the two Sonics playing the stages brings the world back to normal. But forget the story, let's talk about gameplay. Like I said, Generations sees you playing the 2D classic Sonic and the 3D modern Sonic. To start, we have the first classic Sonic stage, so I think it's best we dive into his mechanics. On paper, classic Sonic plays exactly how you'd expect him to. If you were to describe the mechanics of Sonic 2, it would be as simple as this. You jump, you use said jump to kill enemies, you can roll into a ball while on the move, and you can use the spin dash. Using Sonic's speed to traverse through the levels is the appeal, and the replayability comes from the fact that the levels are very large and the upper paths are the faster ones but are more difficult to reach. In Sonic Generations, all that appeal is there. I used Sonic 2 as the example because I say that this Sonic is largely based on the one from that game. Like, there's no super peel out from Sonic CD, there's no insta-shield from Sonic 3, that sort of thing. But as I was saying, Generations perfectly captures the appeal of classic Sonic, especially in the level design department. This game has easily some of the best level design in the entire franchise when it comes to the 3D stuff, but whenever I replay this game, I'm always pleasantly surprised at how, as far as 2D gameplay goes, this game just nails that down too. Just look at Green Hill Zone Act 1, you have the lower route where you play around with these swings, but if you maintain your speed at the top route, you never see them. Same goes for the likes of Sky Sanctuary or Seaside Hill, where if you take the right routes and spin dash at the right angles, you'll never see the slower bits of the stage. As far as how classic Sonic plays, that's basically all I've got to say on it. I mean, it's a faithful recreation of the old style, a style that was designed to be very simple. I mean, literally every button on the Genesis controller made Sonic jump back in the day. It was supposed to be an easy to pick up and play kind of thing. Now, I said it was a faithful 2D Sonic recreation, but that doesn't mean it was perfect. I find Sonic's startup to still be kind of slow compared to the original games. I think his movement in general feels kind of stiff at lower speeds. The jump feels a bit heavy compared to the old games where it was easy to get your momentum up even when in reverse. Classic Sonic does react to going downhill how you'd expect him to, but it's a bit slower than the heights of the actual classic games. But this brings me back to the video I did on Sonic 4 Episode 1 a few weeks back. I'm not a purist about this, I just want fun games regardless of their perceived perfection. People asked me why I decided to split Sonic 4 Episode 1 and 2 into two different videos, and there are a couple of reasons for that choice. One of them being that I think the classic Sonic gameplay of Generations was heavily informed by what was in Episode 1 of Sonic 4, a game that just played like gutter trash. That's where I draw the line. But with Generations, this classic Sonic more than does the job since it checks off the most important boxes. The game even tried to add to classic Sonic's moveset. The spin dash in Sonic 2 was a fundamental improvement to the Sonic experience. Like, if you played Sonic 1 without the spin dash, it just feels like something is off. Since then, 2D Sonic games have been trying to find ways to add to the experience like the spin dash did. The peel out only served as a spin dash, it didn't have a ball form. The insta-shield was great, but I wouldn't really call it a game changer, it's just pretty handy. With Generations, they changed the spin dash from how it used to be. You can still stop, duck, and then spin, or you could just press the square button and Sonic will immediately rev up and go. Classic Sonic's spin dash is really powerful, and you can use it to go flying in the stages. It's a small thing, but I think it's a lot of fun to work with, tipping the scales in this game's favor, as Classic Sonic does have flaws when compared to the old games, but on the whole I think he's a lot of fun to work with, even 10 years later. If this game was just Classic Sonic, it would be looking at a pretty good review, but man, that's only half the game, and the inferior half at that. The other half is modern Sonic's gameplay, which is by far the best selection of 3D stages the Sonic series has ever seen, bar none. Once again, Sonic sees himself boosting throughout the stages at warp speed, sliding under obstacles, homing attacking enemies, and all the stuff you've come to be used to if you played both Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Colors before this. The third time really is the charm, because in this game they ironed out almost all the boosting gameplay's issues. Boosting itself has worked just fine since Unleashed, but now we don't have the little issues like how Unleashed had the homing attack button and the boost button on square at the same time. The quick step no longer works how it did in Sonic Colors, it's back to being L1 and R1 like Sonic Unleashed, to the most comfortable setup. But the biggest win of all is the drift. This mechanic was such a great idea in the previous two games, but neither one of them made it any fun to work with since Unleashed made it too loose and Colors made it too stiff. Now, whenever the drift is needed in Generations, the turns are wide and the move itself feels really responsive, so now you can seamlessly fuse drifting with your speed, what the move was always intended to do. Sonic even turns into a ball while using it, which is a nice touch. They also figured out a way to make the QTE segments really fun. Instead of mashing buttons, you get this great system where trick rings and jumps allow you to move the analog stick to do tricks that will refill your boost gauge, even going past its maximum capacity. However, the more you spam the same tricks, the less it will refill your gauge. So how I go about it is I go up, down, left, right, and then press L1 and R1 at the same time for a finishing move that refills even more of the gauge, but that also cuts off the sequence. But hey, it does it in style as Sonic makes that pose from the SA1 box art. Now, I don't think the boosting gameplay is perfect in this game, as at low speed, Sonic's handling is still a bit awkward and 2D sections still exist, but to tackle those issues one at a time. The former problem isn't really that much of an issue anymore, as Generations doesn't have the kind of tight platforming that Unleashed did, and as for 2D sections, the main issue with it is it's being redundant. I mean, classic Sonic is meant to be the 2D action character, and here comes modern Sonic with his 2D, 3D hybrid sections, and his 2D sections aren't anywhere near as good as classics because quite frankly, in 2D the boost just isn't as powerful as classic Sonic's spin dash. Sonic's double jump from Sonic Colors is also not in Generations, that's another aid in 2D platforming taken away from you. But these are fairly small issues with Generations because otherwise I have no problem saying this is the best boost Sonic has ever handled. The mechanics being fun isn't where it stops though. Like I alluded to earlier, these are the most open-ended 3D Sonic stages I've ever played. The more I do these videos, the more I realize all I'm really looking for these games is exciting stages with many methods of approach, and Generations fires on all cylinders here. There are so many examples I could choose from, like the bridge of Green Hill Zone Act 1. I could run across this bridge and go through the loop, or I could smash through the bridge and get a shortcut. I could run forward in the opening of Chemical Plant Act 2 like most first-time players would, or I could jump to the other paths on the side, one of them getting me an extra life and the other going to a shortcut. The game's levels have so many paths, and honestly I have no idea how the devs were even able to come up with so many good ideas, like expanding the opening of City Escape to include different branching streets, the going down segment of Speed Highway leading to a parking garage where you can take a turn towards a shortcut, Rooftop Run and Planet Wisp having immediate access to higher routes that allow you to get a faster time, Sky Sanctuary letting you jump off this swing to go towards another one. It's truly every stage that has something to offer like this. I've been playing this game for 10 years and it's basically impossible for me to get sick of playing it. I made a point in the Sonic Unleashed review that there's never been a game where the boosting Sonic gameplay has existed on its own merits without some gimmick. I mean, you have the Werehog and Unleashed, the Wisps and 2D auto-scrolling filler and colors, and classic Sonic and Generations. But man, I don't even care in this game. Sonic Generations has two excellent playstyles that offer levels you can replay till the cows come home and still have fun. That's a win in my book. Each stage houses 5 red rings like Sonic Colors, where collecting each one will unlock concept art either from this game or from older Sonic games. Some will unlock music for the music player, and some access new moves you can buy at the skill shop. If you want to add some extra spice to the gameplay, you can buy extra upgrades for the two Sonics at the shop, like the elemental shields from Sonic 3 for classic Sonic, extra boost gauge for modern Sonic, handling improvements like being able to stop on a dime or not receiving knockback when getting hit, all good stuff, but it's entirely optional, only there if you want to experiment with the game more than you already can. Each of the 9 stages has several missions you can play. You only have to play 9 of the missions, so the rest are all optional. The mission variety is pretty high. Some of them are just racing through the stage with a staff ghost. A few of them see you platforming in the stages in unorthodox ways, like climbing on giant moto bugs or using a power-up that turns your enemies into rings to the tune of Knuckles' Chaotix' bonus room stage music. While others see Sonic teaming up with or racing against his friends, like a race with Tails in Green Hill or digging up treasure with Knuckles in Sky Sanctuary. Some missions are actually required to unlock moves in the shop, like the extended boost gauge or the elemental shields. This one mission with Modern Sonic and Seaside Hill finally allowed me to see how big your boost gauge can get. The answer is this much. But some of these missions function like absolute trash, like this one with Modern Sonic and Amy in Chemical Plant, or this one with Classic Sonic and Espio in Seaside Hill. Sometimes the mechanics of these just aren't that fine-tuned. If you choose to play these missions, they will greatly extend your playtime, and sadly, this is a game that needs it. Sonic Generations is a game where I enjoy just about every aspect of the campaign, but I just wish there was more of it. Like I said, the game has 9 stages, 2 acts each, and a bunch of missions within those stages, but the game can be beaten in like 90 minutes if you play the minimum content. With all the missions, I'd say it's probably 2.5 or 3 hours. That's what I mean when I say these missions greatly extend playtime, because if it was just the stages, I'd say you could beat this game in under 60 minutes, and for a game you spent like $50 or $60 on in 2011, that's just not enough content. Doesn't help that Planet Wisp, one of the 9 main stages, is pretty unanimously agreed upon as the worst level in the game, so there's an obvious stinker in the bunch. The ranking system also doesn't help here. This could have extended playtime in a more positive way like previous games, but they dumbed down the difficulty here to such a degree they don't even feel like there is a ranking system. I mean, the only stipulation for getting the S is to not die. It's a total far cry from the days of Sonic Adventure 2. And speaking of things that are a massive downgrade from SA2, the story is also one of the worst in the series. This begins with how the story itself is barely there. You get the interesting setup cutscene with Sonic and the monster, but after that, you get 2 cutscenes in Green Hill and Chemical Plant that just exist to call back to previous games, and then that's basically it. After the first boss, the 2 Sonics have officially teamed up and will run through the levels to save the day. Like I said, that's as complicated as it gets. Which is only one problem. My other issue is that the script is just really cringeworthy with this time travel dialogue. Reaching points where I don't even feel like I'm listening to characters speaking, but rather a collection of sound bites played in sequence.
And I guess we have to run like there's no tomorrow, or there won't be a tomorrow.
But hey, this game does at least show the extended Sonic cast, giving us a chance to hear all their new voices in a main game. I can sum up all my thoughts as, most everyone sounds fine and could be improved with direction more to my taste, but the biggest problem with everyone is that these characters are just here to be laughed at for being stupid. But then it's supposed to be a moment at the end where they cheer you on to the final boss, but like, we just established that these are all moron joke characters, so why bother? That's the real problem with the story summed up. The fact that this could have been something interesting, but just takes 3 cutscenes to set everything up, and then just does nothing with it for the rest of the runtime. And the fact that what is there is diabolically cringe and pre-rendered too. Like, look at this compressed abomination. It just leaves you with a really bad taste in your mouth, especially since the trailers tried to hype up some pretty cool moments, but then the final game doesn't even have any CG cutscenes at all, which came as quite a surprise to me back in 2011. But, can I go back to talking about how good this game is? Like, for example, classic Sonic was really well executed here. The only complaint I have with him is that he doesn't talk, when bringing back Jaleel White from the classic cartoons would have been a perfect move. I don't like Sonic not talking because his having an attitude conveyed through speech has been a staple of everything Sonic from day one besides the games themselves, but he didn't speak in the games because they were on the Genesis. It's just weird that classic Tails, Eggman, and Metal Sonic can talk, but Sonic can't. But besides that, I just love how this classic Sonic looks. Design-wise, this classic Sonic is meant to be a composite version of all the older pre-Uekawa Sonic art. The light blue color scheme contrasts with modern Sonic, serving as a reference to how the old Sonic art depicted him in a variety of shades. The overall design being the Japanese Sonic, but he does have that curved ear and slightly larger belly from the North American design.
Hey, did you gain weight?
It's instantly recognizable regardless of what version of classic Sonic you grew up with. I stated at the top of the video that it was a blast to watch all the trailers and see what levels they were bringing back for the game, and now I just want to run through that list and talk about it since nostalgia really was a big part of the game. Now, of course, if you don't want to sit here and let me revel in the nostalgia of Sonic, you can always skip ahead, but like, don't do that. This gives me a chance to talk about the stages and bosses in more depth anyway, so let's do it. The structure of Generations is that you play the stages in sets of 3 divided by era. You start with the classic era, and the first stage is Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1. I mean, can you think of a better level to start on? It was the first stage in the series. It introduced the world to the character of Sonic and made such a great impression with its level design, how you could use Sonic's abilities in it. Perfect choice. The next stage is Chemical Plant, the second level of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Emerald Hill was a great intro for that game, but it's Chemical Plant where players really got to see how much faster Sonic was compared to the first game as you blazed past the screen via the dash pads. But also, every kid remembers this stage because they probably got a game over at this part at the end of Act 2 with the purple water, something they even make a joke about in the cutscene afterwards. I couldn't even beat this stage back in the Mega Collection days because of that water. Then the last level of the Genesis era is Sky Sanctuary from Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Part of why I wanted to run through this stage list was not just to revel in the nostalgia, but also because these choices vindicate what I've been saying for the whole retrospective. If I were to think of a great stage from 3K to put in Generations, I could think of several picks better than this one. Hydrocity is a great stage, and so were Launch Base, Mushroom Hill, Flying Battery, and Lava Reef. But I think this stage made the cut because of the moment. When you get to this stage in Sonic 3, it was right after the final fight Sonic has with Knuckles, where Knuckles learns Eggman is the real villain and he immediately teams up with Sonic and Tails, as the Death Egg's finally able to take off and you have to fend off the Egg Robos, an elite squad that came from the Death Egg itself. All this story and context is pumped into a 16-bit game cartridge. Like, it's such a cool climax, and that's why I think that stage was picked to be in the game. Each era comes with 2 boss fights, a rival battle and a main boss. For the Genesis era, the rival could be none other than the fan favorite Metal Sonic from Sonic CD, as classic Sonic races him along the bad future of Stardust Speedway from that game. This being the only boss fight that doesn't come from a game that got a stage. And I'm glad about that because while Sonic CD didn't get a stage, Metal Sonic was very much worthy of the rival battle slot from this era, so I'm glad they broke the mold for him. The original boss from Sonic CD wasn't even much of a boss. You had to race Metal Sonic to the end of the track as the doors slammed shut on him when you passed it. It's a very short-lived segment of gameplay, but Metal Sonic himself left an impression on players in that game due to the contrast between him and Sonic, as well as the game building up to that race for its whole runtime. The Generations boss really sets the stage for the bosses in this game, as it's a fantastic encounter. Metal Sonic chases you while you have to time your moves so you can jump on him while he tries to attack you. It's really satisfying, as doing that will allow you to get ahead while he tumbles on the ground, ending with this cutscene. And if you wanted another bit of proof that the devs of this game were paying attention to the details, the music in this fight is Stardust Speedway Bad Future from the Japanese version of Sonic CD, but you can unlock the Bad Future track from the American version of the soundtrack and play it if you prefer that. That's great. What else can I say? The boss for the classic era is another great pick, the Death Egg Robot from Sonic 2. Every kid who grew up with a Sega Genesis will tell you the time they spent trying to beat this boss, the ultimate Eggman mech with no rings in sight, limited lives and continues, the lack of the save feature. If you actually beat it and got to see that great ending, it was a moment you'd never forget. When I first beat Sonic 2, it was on the PS3 Genesis collection, which had a save states feature, so therefore things like lives were of no concern, but still, the amount of states it took to win was pretty staggering, so there's that. The boss was pretty well reimagined for Generations, having two phases where in the first, classic Sonic has to get underneath the mech and attack him from behind, ending with the second phase where you have to use the boss's attacks against him to win. It's not the final boss, so it has to be much easier, but hey, I enjoyed it more than the horrible final fight from Sonic 4 with that instant game over move. So there's that as well. The next era is the Dreamcast era, starting strong with Speed Highway from Sonic Adventure. I'd say most agree this is the star stage from that game. I mean, it's got so many cool moments to speak of, like grabbing a helicopter, running up the sides of buildings, running down this building, something that paid homage to in modern Sonic's version of the stage. The level design here is great, as classic Sonic gets to explore the inside of a hotel and hit the bell from the end of the original stage. Or right at the start of modern Sonic stage, where if you're fast enough you can grab this chopper before it gets away and you get a shortcut. Or you could jump onto the rail and get your shortcut that way. The only thing missing here was the At Dawn portion from the original, but besides that, a great choice, wonderfully brought back. From Sonic Adventure 2, I shouldn't even have to say it, it's City Escape, the first level from the hero side story of SA2. When I first played that game, I was so hyped, because this was the game that Sonic Heroes and Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic Battle, you name it, it was the game they were all referencing in the story. I had to know what I was missing, and it didn't disappoint. And as someone who played SA1 before this, City Escape did not fail to leave a good first impression. Truly an iconic first stage, one that's great for both classic and modern Sonic. Classic Sonic gets to use this skateboard power-up in his stage that calls back to Sonic Triple Trouble on Game Gear while being chased by the gun truck for the entire stage. The original City Escape had this chase scene with the truck at the end, but now the damn thing is back with a vengeance, literally driving through whole buildings to catch the Blue Menace. Attaching full buzzsaws in modern Sonic stage. This level's a real highlight for both characters. But then you have the first pick that I'd say is a little strange. Seaside Hill from Sonic Heroes. Now, in terms of level design, this is the best level in the game. I mean, take what I was talking about with Pathways earlier, and this level has it the most of the entire game. Modern Sonic even getting a segment where you have to choose if you'll go to the platforms below or drive the cars above, which references segments from the original stage really well. And with this being a water-themed stage, classic Sonic can revisit water-themed tropes from the series like the Pipes of Hydrosity or the Spikes of Labyrinth Zone. It's a fantastic stage and homage to the opening levels of Sonic Heroes, however, I just feel like going with the first stage is a strange pick, when Heroes has such highs like Frog Forest, Mystic Mansion, and Egg Fleet. But hey, the important thing is great level. Now for the rival fight of the Dreamcast era, it can be none other than Shadow the Hedgehog. He debuted in Sonic Adventure 2 and left an unmistakable impression, being a playable villain that goes through an arc in his debut game, literally and figuratively. Shadow was so great in SA2 that he came back to life in Sonic Heroes and then got his own game right after that. They really do a great tribute to SA2 in this Shadow boss, as you have this opening cutscene where they recreate the opening of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, the GameCube re-release of SA2, before you even start the fight. For this fight, you're on the Space Colony arc racing Shadow for these pink orbs, and it's really fun as he can do everything you can do, but the one who gets the max number of orbs gets a special attack, something that was a part of the original boss in SA2. If Shadow gets the orbs first, Crush 40's All Hail Shadow from Sonic 06 starts blaring in the background as he blasts you with Chaos Spear, but if you get the orbs, Live and Learn starts blasting as you must run Shadow over with a superpowered boost. When you beat Shadow, he gives you the 4th Chaos Emerald, a reference to the laughable Shadow the Hedgehog line.
Where's that damn 4th Chaos Emerald?
It's beautiful, really. The boss fight of the Dreamcast era is another fantastic pick. Perfect Chaos from Sonic Adventure 1. I mean, I made a really big deal out of this guy in the SA1 video. Chaos stole Eggman's spot as the final boss of a Sonic game for the first time when you had to play as Super Sonic to fight him off in the last story of SA1. This is another fantastic Generations boss fight, as now you have the boost, so you don't even need Super Sonic. Like the original fight, your goal is to avoid obstacles as you blast through Chaos's body and attack his brain up top. Now the part where you avoid obstacles has been expanded to include full platforming, turning a climactic final boss into a great regular fight. We even get a remix of both Open Your Heart and the Phase 2 Chaos music. Crush 40 and Circuit Frequency working together to remix the former, and while I didn't like Circuit Freak's remix of the Shadow Boss theme for True Story, the techno additions from them made this one of my favorite Open Your Heart remixes. Following that, you transition into the last era, the modern era, with a ballsy move from the devs right at the start. They picked Crisis City from Sonic 06. I have all the respect in the world for this. Sonic 06 was meant to be Sonic Team's next-gen masterpiece, but it got rushed out the door by Sega. Staff split up to work on multiple games at once, and just end up one of the biggest disasters in the history of video games. Most studios like to forget that tier of dumpster fire, but now it's got a stage in Generations. They even pay homage to that game being frustrating to play as the goalpost for classic Sonic literally gets swept away from you in a tornado and you have to chase after it. Oddly, modern Sonic doesn't get a snowboard section like he did in 06. The gameplay for it was there since City Escape Modern had a board area at the beginning, but that's my only complaint, as the rest of the level contains all the same highs as the others, multiple paths and thrilling moments like replaying the super speed section of the original Crisis City, only you run towards the tornado instead of away from it. After that, you get to play the best level from Sonic Unleashed, Rooftop Run. Now, by this point, you could make the case that this game has too many city levels, this being the 4th in a game with 9 stages. Although I feel like Crisis City being the apocalypse does give that one a pass for me. It's more of a fire level than a city level. I'm not too bothered since I think Rooftop Run is easily the star level of Sonic Unleashed, so not being in Generations would be a bit odd. That, and I love this level. Classic Sonic stage showing Professor Pickle's lab as the flags from all the countries from Sonic Unleashed are displayed. Classic Sonic also exploring the underground area of Rooftop Run with the barrels that the Werehog did in his version of Rooftop Run back in Unleashed, as well as swinging on the clock tower like the Werehog. A nice nod to the two of them being supplementary mechanics to the boosting stages. Modern Sonic stage is not as long as the original Rooftop Run, but still hitting all the big notes like the clock tower and the ending chase. It's a great stage. Lastly, you have Planet Wisp from Sonic Colors. Like I said, this is the worst level in the game, as you spend an overwhelming majority of it as classic and modern meandering around 2D sections with wisps instead of the high-speed action you see throughout the rest of the game. Not much to say here, I just don't think it's a level that's fun to replay. Graphics look stunning though, especially with this stage being one that fans only played 1 year prior in Colors, so seeing it beautifully reimagined like that so soon was pretty cool. Now for the bosses. Again, big respect. The modern era had Blaze to use as a boss fight. She's a character people love from Sonic Rush. Nobody would have questioned that. But no, the rival battle is Silver the Hedgehog. They could have made his theme music, I don't know, Race to Win from Sonic Rivals 2, but no. The stage is Crisis City from Sonic 06, and the theme is Dreams of an Absolution from that same game, given the same level of respect as Metal Sonic and Shadow themselves. The fact that Sonic Team is so able to confront their past failures like this is such a fascinating thing about this game to me. Anyway, Silver as a boss fight, let's just say, is much better than he was in Sonic 06. The devs making use of his powers in a more fun way as he'll pick up obstacles with his mind that you have to bounce off of to hit him. until he makes an entire ball of destruction from debris, and when you hit him again, all the trash collapses on him. That'll leave a mark. Then there's the final main boss of the game, the Egg Dragoon from Sonic Unleashed. Now, 06 introduced this new instrumental theme for Eggman that Unleashed and Colors also used, but the theme of this boss is EGGMAN from SA2. Guess the devs just knew how much of a banger it was. In Unleashed, the Werehog was the one to battle this boss, so the devs had to get creative and make this work for boosting Sonic. What you have to do is chase him down and land as many hits as you can before the next phase. I love being able to get 2 hits in on the falling phase, especially if it's the last hit. It's really satisfying. Well, that's all the stages and bosses. Now, while walking you through things isn't usually my style, I did it for a reason. Well, first, let me discuss these amazing bosses in more detail, like I said, and the specific stages that I love, but also how much fun it was to play through this game the first time, reliving all these memories I just discussed, because these were the things in my mind the first playthrough. This game was a truly loving tribute to this series, and that's part of its appeal. It's a great trip down memory lane. It's also a fantastic game on its own merits. But having said that, there are just so many references in this game, I've got to talk about them. This one's really nerdy, but one of the powers you can unlock in the skill shop is a move that slows down time called Time Break. This is a clear nod to Sonic and the Secret Rings, where that move was also there. But listen to the Time Break track from the OST. That opening stinger is lifted right from the boss rendition of Chaos Control from Shadow the Hedgehog. And then the track itself is the Cybertrack hub music from Sonic Advance 3. 3 references for the price of 1. I love using the music player as it lets you change the theme of any stage you choose, and like I said earlier, you can use this to play American Stardust Speedway during the Metal Sonic boss fight if you wish. When I was a kid, I liked playing the vocal themes of the stages that they came from, like Open Your Heart in Speed Highway, or Live and Learn in City Escape. Or another one of my favorites to do is when you unlock Route 99 from Sonic Advance 3. I always play this when doing the classic Sonic mission with Cream and Speed Highway. It's like this track was in the game to be played here. Like, it's 2D, you're partnered with Cream to collect Chow in a daytime Speed Highway. It's Route 99. I love it. Speaking of the missions, I love the choice of music in these. Like this one where they have Cash Cash from Sonic Colors remix Supersonic Racing from Sonic R, while mixing in sound bites from that weird-ass Sega Saturn commercial. This mission, where Classic Tails carries Classic Sonic through Chemical Plant, plays a Balloon Park remix from Sonic 3's multiplayer. Tons of missions will have this fantastic remix of Emerald Beach from Sonic Battle on the Game Boy Advance. And then other missions will play the title screen music from Sonic 3D Blast on the Saturn. There's just so many musical references in this game, it's insane, like how Door into Summer from Knuckles' Chaotix and the Sega 32X is playing in the collection room, and just listen to this remix. The soundtrack in this game is really one of the best in the series, as they got composers and bands from all over the series' history to come together and remix tracks with different genres and styles. It's excellent. Classic Sonic getting this half Genesis, half techno style, something much appreciated after how hard Sonic 4 went with that fake Genesis angle that didn't work. And modern Sonic in the typical Tomoya Ohtani orchestral and Jun Senoue rock treatment. It's such a great listen, and like the game itself, a perfect walk down memory lane. My favorite track in the game that captures everything I'm saying is classic City Escape. Here you have an iconic track from Sonic Adventure 2 with that signature adventure-styled rock, remixed by Cash Cash from Sonic Colors in their techno style, mixed in with Genesis beats emulating, well, the Sega Genesis. 3 eras of Sonic music colliding at once, and it sounds fantastic. but it all just comes back to the same thing. It's a shame there isn't more of it. This really is a near perfect game, but it's just so short. My guys, Sonic 06 and Sonic Unleashed both got a bunch of DLC, and this game got none outside of a pinball table. And I don't even like pinball. It just looks like puke on a plate to me. What they should have done is so obvious. How about level packs? Picture it now. Generations DLC Pack 1, Ice Cap from Sonic 3, Sky Troops from Shadow the Hedgehog, and Levitated Ruins from Sonic and the Secret Rings. More stages with the same design principles as the main game, and you've got a formula for DLC that I would keep paying for till the moon turns blue. It's an idea that could last for years, as they have so many great levels they could pick from, and yet we just never got any. It's just so bizarre. The fans have been modding the PC version of Generations since the day it came out, basically, which is great, further adding to that being the best version. I've played some of the popular ones like the Unleashed project that I went into in my Unleashed review, and Sonic Melponturations, which actually gave us a Sky Troops stage that I think stacks up with the rest of the game in terms of open-ended level design. But man, Sega really missed out there. But oh well, mods are free. I feel like it wouldn't have been as bad if the ending of the game wasn't so lame. I mean, Planet Wisp wasn't a great stage, but then you don't get a big final stage, you just get the final boss, or it just turns out Eggman and classic Eggman are controlling the monster called the Time Eater. They even play off continuity by saying he found the thing after he got beat in Sonic Colors. Would have been nice if Orbot and Cubot got left behind for good, but anyway, this final boss with the two Supersonics is awful. I already kind of went into establishing that this moment really fails to leave an impact. I mean, we literally get all the characters the game just made fun of back to cheer you on like in the 3D games of old, but they're all idiots just repeating the same line over and over in the boss fight. As for the fight itself, I don't care how long Perfect Dark Gaia from Sonic Unleashed is. This boss is terrible. You can barely see what's coming, you can barely collect any rings, you can barely control it, you just sit there spamming the boost button and get almost no feedback from hitting the thing. This might be easy to do, but it's genuinely a bad boss in a game where every other boss is fantastic. I love playing Splash Hill Zone's theme during the final boss of this game, it always feels like it's more fitting that way. When the day is saved, you get an ending I've always enjoyed. Sonic's birthday party resumes, the music's all nice and positive as the characters in the audience say goodbye to classic Sonic for the last time.
Hey, Sonic! Enjoy your future! It's gonna be great!
In the credits, we'll get a Genesis game-style medley of all the stages in the game that sound absolutely incredible. The Crisis City mix being even better than the one in the main stages, it's crazy. The last note in the credits being an audio sample from the crowd at the Sonic 20th anniversary party from 2011. Sonic the Hedgehog means a lot to a lot of people. Playing this game again for this video just reminds me of that fact. I kind of talked about this when I did the Black Knight review, but Generations being the 20th anniversary game really gets me thinking about my memories with the Sonic series, thinking about the adventures that had brought us here, the people we'd met and places we'd seen. Now, okay, enough of the sly quotes. But really though, Sonic is a unique series, a unique history and a talent for surviving destruction numerous times when other franchises would have crumbled beneath all that weight. I love Sonic, he's cool but uncomplicated. He's there for people who need him, which is why I loved this series so much when I was a kid. Sonic Generations being an interesting point because this is basically a perfect game to me. Like, I wish there had been more of it, but it's only because what is there is so good. This is easily a contender for one of my favorite games in the decade, and masterful execution of a great idea is why that is. They were on such a high after this game, and Colors as well. All they had to do was take this great gameplay and level design and make something really original. But obviously that's not what happened. I don't want to focus on negative stuff today because I'm just here to talk about Sonic Generations, a truly blessed game, but damn is it just disappointing to think of what they did with the series after this high point. But I suppose that's what the later videos are for. I have no idea what those videos will be like at this point. Sonic Generations was the last Sonic game that came out when I was a kid. Well, maybe you could say it was episode 2 of Sonic 4, but that's besides the point. What I'm saying is that this was the last big main game that came out when I was a preteen, and so even if there is a certain amount of nostalgia for all of these games, It's coming from a much different place when discussing something like forces than it would be for secret rings, if that makes any sense. I think that has an effect because I'm imagining that the nostalgia is part of why I'm ready to just let go of that meta-era bashing philosophy. But on that same note, I really do feel differently about the subject than I used to. For example, I didn't talk much about the voice acting because I don't want to bash real people doing honest work. It doesn't feel good to look back on given how much time I've spent doing that in older videos. I also just feel like Sonic doesn't belong to me, you know? I dropped the "was distinctive" thing from the title of this retrospective because, like I said, Sonic doesn't belong to me, so I can't just say it stopped being a distinctive series after 06. I mean, on the one hand, I had that idea because the back half of this series' life was spent avoiding 06's issues, but hell, this video shows that's not entirely true anyway. But on the other hand, the fact that this series survived past 06 to begin with also says a lot about its staying power, which is plenty distinctive on its own merits. What I mean to say with this is just thus. The next videos on Lost World or Forces probably won't be too kind if I had to guess, but I don't plan on going into them with a different attitude from Colors and Generations. Maybe Lost World will see the biggest heel turn in my show's history. Only way to find that out is by doing those videos. I don't know what else to say about Sonic Generations in conclusion because I feel like my point has been made. I love the game. It's awesome. It feels great to tell you I enjoy a Sonic game because it's a damn good game for once. This is the kind of game I could recommend to anyone who just wants a fun and replayable platformer, when most Sonic games I like would get a massive "but" at the end of the sentence. As for myself, this is the last Sonic video for the year, but in the meantime, I actually have a pretty important anniversary I want to celebrate in video form, so that'll be the next video, and I hope you join me for it. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.